Does somebody want the host? George, do you want me to make you the host?
Sure, that'd be great. Then I can kick everybody out when I get tired of listening to them.
Fair enough. Yes. Okay, George is the host. Jason has recording privileges.
We are recording.
Okay. We are recording, and there's a link to the agenda in the chat now.
Thank you very much. All right, well, good morning. I see some new faces, so we're going to go around real quick and just a quick introduction, who you are and your library or organization. Start with in my window, Robin is first, so Robin, go for it.
All right. I'm Robin Hastings. I'm with Northeast Kansas Library System. We have been using Koha for 9 or 10 years now, and I have been a member of this organization since it began. So.
I'm Christopher Brannon. I'm with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and also the Cooperative Information Network, and the current president of koha-US, and we've been with Koha since 2012. Lisette.
I'm Lizette Shear at the Latah County Library District, which is part of the Valnet Consortium in North Idaho. And I've been doing this for about 2 years, but we've been on Koha for 5 here.
All right. Fred?
Well, George muted me, so I had to do
There was a weird sound coming through, so I muted everybody.
okay, sorry. Fred
I don't know if it was you, I just muted everybody.
Fred King, Washington Hospital Center. I set up 5 years ago last month. I know that because all the accounts lasted for 5 years and everybody's expired. And I'm member at large.
All right. Jason.
I'm Jason Robb. I'm the Seek and Find coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System here in Iola, Kansas. And we've been running Koha. We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary of Koha in November. So,
Right.
And I'm secretary, koha-US.
The cutest secretary I've ever seen.
Aw, shucks.
Nancy.
I'm Nancy Keener, Washoe County Library System in Reno, Nevada. We hosted KohaCon 2013. We've been on Koha for 6 years.
All right. Christopher.
Great, I'm Christopher Davis. I'm the Systems and Electronic Services Librarian at the Uinta County Library. Uinta County Library is in Vernal, Utah. It's in the northeast of Utah by the Colorado and Wyoming borders. So happy to be here. We've been running Koha going on 4 years. So it'll be 4 years in November. So happy to be here. We were on Sources Annex before, and we're very happy to be on Koha. And I've been a member of this organization, the koha-US, for a while, most of those years. I was the past secretary at one time, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. Mary Beth.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Schaefer from the Central Kansas Library System. We've been on Koha since 2008, and you're supported by Bywater.
George?
I'm George Williams. I also work at Northeast Kansas Library System, and I am currently the Vice President of koha-US.
Nate?
Nate Karula from Bywater.
Short and simple. All right. And I see that Margie, I hope I'm saying your name right. Margie?
It's Margie, but that's okay.
Margie, okay.
I also am with the Central Kansas Library System in Great Bend, Kansas, and work with Mary Beth. We've been on since 2008, and Bywater is our go-to.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to slaughter your name. I'm sorry. Is it Norazlan?
Hi.
Hi.
You hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm Azlan from National Library of Malaysia. I'm using Koha almost 2 years, but now distributing Koha for the rural libraries. Anyone joins IFLA next month in Malaysia? Ifla? No. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
My
Glad to have you
organization
here.
doesn't send us out of the country anymore after we lost a staff member to Bywater in New Zealand. So I won't be at IFLA.
Well, they just went to a conference and never came back.
She came back just long enough to get a visa and move back to New Zealand to work.
Ah, okay.
All right, Jack.
Can't
Hey, that
justify
wasn't
it.
our fault. That was Catalyst.
I'm Jack Morash, the South Bay Historic Railroad Society in Santa Clara, California, and we do have a small library here, probably the largest railroad library on the West Coast. And we've been with COA for about 3 or 4 years under Bywater Solutions there.
All right. Then we have Heather. Heather, do you have a microphone, or should I just read off? Let's see if she unmuted.
She put something in chat. Both Heathers did.
Okay, so Heather says that she's from San Francisco Maritime NHP. Really slow internet connection. Koha is supported and hosted by Bywater. All right, and David.
Excuse me, David Kuhn from Monterey Public Library. I'm the Technology Services Specialist here, and we have been on Koha since 2014, hosted by Bywater, of course.
Good to have you here, David. Barbara Johnson. Oh, she wrote Barbara Johnson from Bedford Public Library, Texas, with Koha since 2016. Welcome. And then we have another Heather. Let's see here. I know she wrote something here. Heather Groves Hannon from Virginia Military Institute. New to Koha and newish to VMI. Okay, I'm not familiar with VMI. Anybody know what VMI is?
Maybe Virginia Military Institute.
Oh,
A very famous military school.
Wow.
Read Lords of Discipline by Pat Conroy. I'll tell you all about it.
All right. And is it Edie? I apologize again if I slaughter names. From Fargo Public Library, North Dakota. They've been with Koha since November 2015. All right. I think that's everybody. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with announcements, and I'll kick off with a quick announcement. We have moved pretty much everything that I think that we need from our koha-US.net wiki over to our website. We still have a few tweaks to do on the website, but otherwise most of our content is over there, plus all of our past conference information that we have. I think there was one conference that we don't have any information on from Erie, Pennsylvania, but everything else is on there. So we're planning to move forward with that. We're going to be shutting down the wiki here in the near future as soon as the members, the board members go over the site and make sure that we've got everything. So hopefully by the end of this week, we're going to shut that puppy down and we'll solely be on the website. All right. Any other announcements from anyone?
I went to a good portion of the Koha general meeting today. I listened to it because I watched it and listened to music while it was going on because it was all in the IRC. 1805 has been released. There's been a lot of bug fixes that are waiting to get into 1711 and 1805 that are kind of held up now by needing sign-off. So if anybody knows how to sign off on patches, it would not be a bad idea to go to Bugzilla and take a look and see if there are any patches that you can sign off on those. I think they said there were about 50 that are important that are kind of stalled for lack of people to sign off on them. So,
all right. maybe let's see here. Maybe we could compile a list and put that on our website so that people know that we need to get those moving.
You know, when I saw that in the meeting that there were some that needed to be, that there were a lot stalled and needed to be signed off on, I went and just took a quick look, and naturally most of the ones that really need to be signed off on are ones that, I mean, just looking at through like 4 or 5 of them, it looked like there were ones that are more complicated than my skill level to sign off on. You know, prove something, update schema, all of those kinds of things that are above my head. But then I have a meeting with Bywater that I went to with Margaret, and she talked about and maybe Nate can talk about this a bit, about some tools that they're working on that they're hoping to unveil at the conference that might make some things easier with sign-off. So
that'd be great. All right. All right. Any other announcements? Okay. Just a reminder, we're looking for KohaCon presentations. I think officially they stopped taking presentation, I don't know what to call it, requests.
Proposals.
Proposals, there we go. They stopped taking them this week. I don't know, I can't remember if it was by Friday, but anyways, if you've got an idea for a proposal, please, by all means, get that submitted. Who is planning, I know that we were talking about koha-US doing a panel. In fact, Robin, you were talking about it when I came in. Is somebody submitting that proposal, or do I need to do that?
I can do that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to hit here before. I've got to go here in a minute. Christopher said that he would, Brennan said he would sit with me, and George this morning said he would go, so we can talk. Basically, it comes, one of the French groups sent an email to the board saying that they would like to hear how koha-US came to be. And George said, since I had been a big part of the beginning, that I should do a program, and I think it would be best as a panel. So like I said, I've got 3 people right now, me, Christopher Brandon, George Williams, talk about past, present, and future. If anyone else is interested in participating in this panel, let me know before. I'm going to try and get it in. If it's due on Friday, I'm trying to try to get it in Thursday or Friday at the latest. So let me know as soon as you can, if you have something that you want to share about the founding and governance of our little group. So,
Robin, talk to John. I definitely encourage him to be a part of the panel, because he has been a huge part of this year with all the organization, getting some things underway with policies and with budget and everything. I think that was a huge part of us really getting things moving in the momentum of the group. So I would love to have him on the panel as well.
All right, I'll ask.
Okay.
So that's really all I had to say. Now I have to go moderate another Zoom meeting in the other room that we have that's starting in 10 minutes. So I will see you guys later. Be sure to get a hold of me soon if you want to be part of the panel, and I will get back with you as soon as I submit it and let you guys know what I've done. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. So yes, if you have any presentation ideas, please, by all means, submit a proposal as soon as possible. Todd Goatley actually put out an email on a few lists regarding proposals, and he also included a link of past presentations. Some presentations might be worth doing again, but it's nice to have some fresh content if anybody wants to make sure that they're not just rehashing the same old thing, they can check the list. But we'd love to see what people are doing in Koha, what's new, and things that they'd like to share with the groups. So please get those presentation proposals in as soon as possible.
Yeah, has someone submitted a proposal for crossing the Linux barrier?
Are you asking if somebody has, or?
Yes.
I haven't seen the list. I have seen it briefly scroll by, but I have not had the list in my hand, so I'm not sure yet. Yeah, and that's one of the things that, you know, we're pushing here is, you know, we want to be able to help people with that Linux barrier. There's a lot that happens on the Linux side that kind of stalls people from getting in, exploring in the debugging process, or building their own Koha system. And because a lot of us are working in a Windows environment, or some of us are working in a Mac environment, so that's something that we need to work on as a user group, is helping people be more familiar with Linux and working in that environment. All right.
The thing I would also add is, if you're not, I mean, if you're going to be at the conference and you're not sure that you have something that's, you know, worth talking about, don't be afraid of submitting that anyway. You know, the presentation you do can be as short as like 15 minutes, and it doesn't have to be, you know, this is something I do that's going to change your whole world. It can just be something as simple as, you know, this is just a quick thing you can do that makes something, you know, a little bit simpler. Don't be intimidated by speaking at a conference. It's no worse than talking to everybody here.
Yep. And we would love to have everybody there, but we know that for some people financially it's not possible, and we are making allowances for web presentations. So if you wanted to present live via web, just to share your information, that would be totally acceptable. So feel free to submit a proposal, and we'll certainly consider that.
You think that a short talk on how to add or create a new mark field and add it to the zebra index would be worth doing?
Put in the proposal.
Okay.
All right.
I think Jason put in a link to the site that you're talking about.
Yep,
check that out.
There's a list of the topics. I think Lizette helped compile that.
Yeah, those are all the past KohaCon topics.
Is that what you're talking about, Christopher?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go, George, or Fred. Sorry.
And Fred, I somehow have access to the list of submitted proposals right now, because I was in some of those planning meetings, and I don't see the crossing the Linux barrier in there. So you may want to just get something in to get it on the list.
Well, I don't think I'm the person to lead that one. I can certainly be part of a panel, but the entire program's probably beyond me.
Yep.
I'd be interested in helping you, Fred.
Would you be interested in leading it?
We'd have to talk about that. Probably not. I won't actually be at the conference, so that would be difficult. I can't go this year, so.
Sorry to hear it.
Well, hopefully somebody out there is comfortable enough with Linux that they might pick that up. But that's definitely something that we need to move forward in. All right, let's move on to open discussions, bugs, issues, etc. with 1711. Surprises, Jason.
Oh yeah, I forgot I put all that on there. So let me look at my list here. We upgraded a few weeks ago to 1711 and had some surprises. So things that we didn't see in the upgrade webinars and stuff. So I thought I'd just pass along what we ran into. The first two are system preferences. So the first one is, if you're using Novelist Select, now there's a separate field for a separate staff profile in that setup. So originally, you just put in your username and password for Novelist in the two fields, and it would make it work in the OPAC, and then it would also make it work in the staff client, but it would point the links out to the OPAC. So the solution was to make a separate profile so that the links in the staff client point inwards and the links in the OPAC point outwards. But we didn't know that was coming. So if you use Novelist, you need to request another account username for the staff side, and they can set that up to fix that problem. So that was, and the main reason I'm calling that a surprise is because it came in unpopulated, so that the Novelist stuff just stopped working on the staff side right after upgrade. So that's something to be aware of. Another one that threw us for a few days was there's a new system preference called mark lost items as returned. If you go to the item detail page on a record and it's checked out and you mark it lost, it'll check it in and charge it to the patron. That was the old behavior. Now the system preference controls whether it gets checked in or not. And for us, that was defaulted off. So it was a different behavior than we were used to. So we had to toggle that back on so things would get checked in when you mark them lost. So that threw us for a little while. I have logs question mark because I've been noticing that my logs aren't as comprehensive as previously. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look into that and actually report the issue, but it seems like it's not logging every check-in like it did before. And I've tried toggling the logs on and off, so I was just going to see if anybody else was experiencing that. It could just be us.
I think there was it depends on which log you're talking about. I know that there were some issues with like the cataloging log was logging absolutely every single change to.
Yeah, we don't use the cataloging log.
Yeah.
It's just the circulation log that's
It's a circ log, okay.
Problems with. But like I said, I haven't dug into that and figured out if there's what the issue is. But like if somebody brings back an item they want me to research, usually I can run the logs and see when it was checked in and by who. And now sometimes those issues aren't showing in the logs anymore. So it's making backtracking things a little harder.
We've had a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and it just started after the upgrade. So that's something to be aware of. I lost the list again. Too many windows. The last thing was text messages, I think, for overdues. We've been running text messages for individual patrons for a while, but we didn't turn on text messages for overdues because that's like I guess this was the surprise. It was there's in your notice triggers, you either turn on emails for overdues and you turn on text messages for overdues. And we wanted to know how that behaved. So like if somebody had email set up but not text, how would that fall back? Because we fall back to print notices. So I asked Bywater and they looked into it, and it looks like if you've got that text box checked and the patron has email set up but not texting on their account, then those texts are going to fall back into the print notices and completely like bog it down. So we've chosen not to move forward with that yet. So that's because before all the other notices texts were on a patron by patron basis, but the overdue is a blanket thing because it goes by patron category or whatever set up in the notice triggers, and we're nervous about turning that on because it can create a lot of clutter. So that's just another something to be aware of. And that's the end of my list. I'm sure there were more things that came up with our upgrade. But
Margie put something in the chat box there. So.
Yeah, we also had the same problems that Jason listed, but I also had a problem with the surname feature. So there was nowhere that I could find a system preference we added all the fields, but it wasn't until I contacted Kelly that she did something on the back end to make that appear. So the only reason I found it is we had a couple of patron modification requests, and I was they wanted to add their surname and gender, and it didn't pop up anywhere on the patron when you're setting up a new patron or editing the patron. So they did clear that up. And has anyone encountered a lot of internal server errors? For instance, I've had 2 libraries want to change their email settings to where their overdue notices go. And when I go to try to edit the information, I get this internal server error. So Bywater fixed it. And then again, this morning I tried to do it and I'm getting the same error. So just little things I'm encountering. So.
We have not experienced any of that.
So Mark,
we haven't upgraded yet, so this is great to hear all this stuff.
Was it working, and then now you have an internal server error?
So I went to make a change and it wasn't working, and then Nick corrected it, and I made a change yesterday, and then this morning I was asked by a library to change an email again and went back. So it's whatever bug or whatever coding he corrected, then it's not sticking or whatever. I don't know the proper word. So I did put in another ticket to him to see if we can readdress that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
We had some issues with EDI ordering. It stopped working, and they're still, I think, trying to get all the bugs worked out of it. So I'm not exactly sure what happened, but all of a sudden we were not able to order things electronically.
Our library, we use acquisitions, and one of the things that was a gotcha for us when we upgraded, we can't delete bibs now that are attached to orders, past orders. It talks about a permission, but we have no ability to remove the bib at all. So if we have like the last item in there that we've withdrawn, we want to remove the empty bib, we can't do it without removing stuff from a past order, which obviously changes past records, which we don't want to do. So right now, I think that there's some bugs in the work, but they're not even signed off yet. I don't know if they're in the sign-off stage, but I know that there's something in the works. But right now, the only option that we have is to keep a list off to the side as to what needs to be deleted when we can, and hide those bibs. So that one was kind of a little gotcha that we didn't like. Anybody else have any upgrade issues with 1711?
On the check-in screen, the shelving location no longer shows, which has been exciting because that's how we denote our new books and book storage books. But we've been talking with Bywater, and I think it's supposed to be fixed in the next monthly update. So not much longer there. But we have a lot of book storage books that have made it back out onto the shelves.
Nick actually applied the patch to our system, so it can be fixed apparently quite easily.
Yeah, CKLS has that too, and they're working on ours, so you're not alone.
Interesting. Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, I thought of another one. We had an internal server error when item types were missing. So a library would attempt to work with an item and transfer it or whatever, and if an item type was missing, it would get this internal server error. So we went in and found them and quickly repopulated item types. We didn't have that many, but it's yet another odd thing that just popped up. So.
All right, good to know. Any other things? Seems like this particular upgrade had a few more issues than past. Hey, John.
Hi.
Glad you could join us.
I'm here. Teaching for the day is finished.
We were just talking about 1711. Have you upgraded to 1711 yet?
Yes, I've been running 1711 for quite some time. I actually updated back in December. With our limited implementation, we hadn't really noticed any problems created by the software with our installation.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other bugs or maybe even something that you didn't expect that was a good or a positive from 1711?
There was one thing that kind of struck me as new, but because we updated so long ago, I'm hard pressed to recall actually what it was at this time. There were at least one, possibly two things though that made me say, oh, look, it does this now. But I can't remember what they were. I'll have to see if I can go back through my notes and determine what those were. There were a few things though.
All right. It's good to have you here. And you're just in time too. Let's see here. We're moving on. We're going to move on to committee reports. Anything new with fundraising?
We didn't meet last month because we started meeting with the Koha, with the Bywater's conference team instead.
Okay. Finance.
Finance committee is available. The committee report is available to view. Of the big things to note, now that we are in the second half of the calendar year, the membership dues for the remainder of the calendar year are now $12.50 and not $25. The change was made on the PayPal side to the new amount, and the description also reflects the fact that it is a July through December membership period. The links themselves, the one that appears when one completes the membership application, those links didn't change. I made all of the changes on the PayPal side alone. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for a third finance committee person. Candace has continued to do a very nice job. I miss Jason's input, so if there's anybody that is interested in serving out what little is left of this term, but perhaps more importantly would be interested in serving on the finance committee for the upcoming term of officers, that sort of input is always welcomed and appreciated. The third finance committee thing was probably talked about already. As a planning partner with Bywater Solutions for the upcoming 2018 KohaCon, koha-US is coordinating the sponsorship by collecting money through PayPal. This is a separate process altogether and is not reflected in any of our budgeting. The net of any contributions received through a very specifically created PayPal button will be separately tracked and sent over to Bywater Solutions for the exclusive support of conference expenses. To date, we've had one individual contribution and we've had two corporate sponsors. Libriotech from Europe and PTFS Europe have both become corporate sponsors as what is called the community participant level. If you go to the sponsors page of KohaCon 2018, you'll see a little bit more about that. And because we are collecting the money, koha-US is actually sending a letter to these organizations and to the individuals. US individuals will receive a tax-deductible receipt. The corporate bodies are informed that their contribution has been received and that somebody from Bywater Solutions will be working with them with regard to getting logos and stuff for the inclusion on conference documentation.
We also just got recently told that Koha Gruppo Italiano is going to be sponsoring a $500 donation. So.
That's good to know, Nate. Thank you for that. I'll be sure to look for that notification. Awesome. In yesterday's conference planning committee meeting, we talked a little bit, and I will be sending along, in addition to maintaining a spreadsheet that I've been doing to make sure we keep all of the tracking separate, I get a notification like I do anytime a PayPal money comes in at all. It's specially marked because of that separate button, and that information will be passed along to the appropriate folks at Bywater when I receive it.
All right. Thank you. Conference. George, were you at the conference meeting? No, you weren't at the conference meeting.
No, I was in Hiawatha.
Yeah. Let me look at my list here, see if I have anything significant. We talked about the koha-US panel that we want to do. Oh, by the way, John, we're trying. That was interesting. We're trying to wrangle you into being on that panel. So, you know, right now we've got Robin, me, and George on the panel, and want to make sure that you're on there too, because you've been.
Yeah, go ahead and add me to the list of
awesome.
Panel participants for that.
Brendan talked a little bit about Cultural Day. So smack dab in the middle of the conference, so there'll be a few days of presentations, then there'll be a one-day break with the Cultural Day, and then there will be the man, my brain is just not working today. Hackfest. Anyways, the Cultural Day, he talked a little bit about. He's talked about possibly doing the history museum, some food carts, Japanese gardens, and one of the things he mentioned about doing, I don't know if it was on this day or another day during the week, is a fun morning run. Lisette brought up possibly going through Powell's. I had also talked to, and I gave Brendan a preliminary list of ideas about this, but you know, since we are meeting one of the days that September 11th, I thought it might be great to do some community emphasis and you know, just bringing up September 11th, how you know, one of the things that you know, strikes me as a U.S. citizen, you know, we think about the attack on U.S. because it was U.S. soil that it happened on, but you know, looking up the information about the attack on the World Trade Center, you know, there were over 90 countries that were affected with deaths from that attack, and you know, I thought it would be a good idea to bring it up, and you know, just you know, bring up the fact that you know, it's great that you know, we have something like Koha that's pulling people from all these different countries together to work on something that we have in common, rather than you know, letting something tear us apart. You know, I'm grateful that we as people have the ability to find things in common and come together on those, rather than harp on the things that we have differences in. And so I'm hoping that we can reflect that somehow on that day. All right, so that's.
You also might want to add OMSI to the list. OMSI. It's Oregon Museum. Is that on there?
It wasn't. I thought of it, but I wasn't sure if it was something that was worth it. But yeah, I could certainly bring that up. Yeah, I didn't know if that was something that everybody would be interested in or not. You know, but it was one of the first things that came to my mind. So. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely bring that up at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so Benjamin is not here. We were slated to do more on the development process for how we're going to decide what developments we're going to be working on and focusing our money and efforts into. We had a meeting scheduled, and then people were sick, so we had to reschedule. So we've got to call out for a new meeting time. So we are working on setting up a new meeting for that. So we'll have more next month on that. Okay. So last 15 minutes here. We have an ongoing discussion about breaking the Linux barrier. If there's something that you have to throw out there about how we can help people to be more familiar and comfortable with Linux, setting up Koha in a Linux environment, those types of things. We're always welcome comments on that. Otherwise, this is an open discussion about bugs, current issues that you're facing. So it's open discussion, so go for it. Is there anything that anybody would like to bring up about either Linux or issues in Koha that you're dealing with right now?
One of the things I'll be looking at in the fall, let's just leave it generically as in the fall, I'll be interested to see what happens with the new LTS version of Ubuntu that came out this past April. Normally, at least, it seems that support for the latest biennial LTS cycle usually doesn't happen until about a year or so in, after there's testing done by a whole bunch of people that know a lot better than me what they're looking for and how that works. But even without that official support, since I've got a development server around, I might just try to see what happens when I use the latest LTS version on the latest version of Koha. And if it works, terrific. And if it doesn't, well, then I know that it's garbage, and we'll continue on or go backwards from there as need be.
I tried installing, I think it was 1805 on Ubuntu, it was 18, and it did not go swimmingly. I can't remember exactly how it went wrong, but it did. So I'm still working on my Koa in a bottle setup, but I'm going to try again with a previous version, like 16.
And by the way, if you have any notes on a particular setup with a version of Koha and version of Linux or Ubuntu, you know, if you run into any gotchas or anything that you discover along the way of setup process, by all means, please share that with us. Right now, you can share that with us in the general meetings and the listserv, but we need to start putting together some of this compilation of information about you know this put with this and what we ran into on the website, so that people can be prepared for whatever direction that they're going with a setup. So yeah, we would like to be able to bring all that information together so people can see what they're going to run into for whatever scenario and choose wisely. Any other issues or bugs that you're currently interested in or working on?
We started looking into using the suggestion statuses authorized value to make custom suggestion statuses, and found that there's a couple of weird things that it does. It always makes a status unknown tab when you're like looking at the suggestion purchases, but it also sometimes, if you go to edit the suggestion, it'll blank out the status, and instead of being your selected status, it's now no status. And I put in a bug for that, which I put in the chat as well, 21048.
Okay. See here, I'm trying to think. There was an issue. Can't think of it. I was kind of, something came up with the recent install of Koha 1711, and I was finding that we're not expecting. I can't think of it. I know that the solution isn't slated until not this next 18.5, but I think it's 18.11 or something like that. It's like, I wish they'd get some things done sooner. But yeah, 1711. I wasn't particularly thrilled with some of the outcome on this upgrade. So some things I'm happy with. I'm happy. I guess there's some better linking in the accounts to match payments with fines and fees. So I'm looking forward to seeing that smooth out over time. But otherwise, I can't think of the item. But if I remember, I'll bring it up. Anybody else? All right.
I've got something. Somewhere I heard about 17.11 having like a holds history. Patrons can look and see what they have on hold or in the past. Is that true?
Yes. It's only in the staff client. It's only visible right now in the staff client. And you have to have the staff, there's a system preference that allows staff to see the patron's reading history, their circulation history. That has to be turned on in order for staff to be able to see the holds history. I have just a couple of days ago asked Bywater to get me a quote on a development that would, currently patrons can't see the holds history, so I asked for that to be one step, is to make it visible in the OPAC and to tie it to a system preference that would make it visible or not visible in the OPAC. And the other thing I asked for is to make it so that patrons can delete or anonymize that holds history if they wanted to, because that is not currently a function. The data that it's drawing on comes from the hold reserves table. And so as long as the data is in the old reserves table, it's visible to staff if they can see the holds history. And so I asked for an immediate deletion button and a privacy setting for patrons to be able to set. This is an area where I think that there's already been some work done in the Koha community, because it has to do with the GDPR that I talked about last time, where countries in Europe are going to need Koha to be able to delete that. And they're going to need ways for staff to be able to delete it on behalf of patrons in order to meet the requirements of GDPR. So I don't think either of those will be big issues, but they're not in there right now.
That was my next question, if there's a way to opt out of it or something like that. So thank you. I appreciate
Not yet.
But it's coming, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, sure.
All right, anything else? Last call.
Chris, this is Nancy. Could you put out the new web address for everybody again? It's not easy to find when you Google koha-US.
It's just koha-US.org.
Is there a dash?
Yeah, there's
US?
koha-US.
See, I just think an email out to everybody, the Bywater partners and the listserv would be great. Just a reminder that it's there and that we're off the wiki.
And Nancy, I just put a link in the chat box too.
Jason, would you send out a reminder on the listserv?
Yep, I can do that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, last call. All right, we're going to end a few minutes early here today, it looks like. So,
my God, that's never happened before.
I think we all have lives. All right, folks, thank you very much for sitting in today, and it was great to have all of you and see all the new faces. Thank you for coming, and we will see you next month. Jason, next meeting times.
Okay, so our next board meeting will be August 1st, which is a Wednesday, 10:30 Central, however that works out for you. Same as always. And then our next general meeting like this one will be Wednesday, August 8th at 10:30 Central.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And, oh, it's National Free Slurpee Day, so get your free Slurpee.
Wow, somebody pinch me.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye. See you, everybody.